views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. Way back in 1993, then Mayor David Dinkins showed sympathy for the plight of City Islanders who had to constantly put up with noise from the nearby NYPD shooting range at Rodman's Neck. And so he signed a memorandum of understanding with the state, pledging that sound baffling would be installed at Rodman's Neck within a year. Well, here we are in 2017, and you just have to sit in the park or at an outside table while enjoying a nice seafood lunch at a City Island restaurant to see and mostly hear explosively that noise treatment at Rodman's Neck has still not yet happened. Enter Mayor de Blasio and a stated $275 million plan to upgrade the entire facility at Rodman's Neck. But for weary City Island residents, questions remain. How much sound baffling will actually be involved? Will there still be bomb detonation drills? And can they be coordinated so they don't interrupt sensitive times on City Island like during holidays? This is yet another story about community self-determination in the Bronx. Tonight's guests are part of an effort to gain more input into those renovations at Rodman's Neck and find a way toward a little more peace and quiet in one of the most lovely and idyllic places in the Bronx. Please join me in welcoming the president of the 45th Precinct Community Council. It is Bob Beater. Nice to have you back on the program.
Thank you.
And from the City Island Civic Association, where she's the vice president, it is Barbara Dolensek. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So let's start with you, Barbara, and let's talk about Rodman's Neck in general. How long has this been a problem? Is it still a problem? Is it better or worse than it's been? Or has it just been the same noise you could hear across the bay all this time?
It's progressively gotten worse and worse over time. I moved 2,000 feet away from Rodman's Neck in about
across the water,
across the water 40 years ago this week. And it wasn't so terrible then, but there weren't so many people firing or practicing over there, and the guns were not so noisy. Now there are 90,000 people a year, using the firing range.
90,000 people?
Yes, yes.
I was not aware
Well,
of that.
because the police
Seems like a lot of
officers,
people.
they have to certify twice a year now. Plus, we get people from corrections, we get people from sanitation. I mean, lots of people go there. And the guns they use are much louder. And they also have the anti-terrorism weapons over there, too. So sometimes it can be really deafening. And coming across water, especially when the cloud cover or when the wind is blowing from the west, it's pretty bad. But people in Country Club can hear it. People, on other side of Eastchester Bay. It's really all around the bay.
How disruptive is it? I mean, I know, and we were talking about it beforehand. You sit and you have a nice lunch, usually at lunch, not at dinner, because it's rare, I guess, not really at night. But I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, what actually is it? Firecrackers? What is that? And then you find out, is it all day long? Is it all night long? What is it like?
It's, well, they can do it all day long. When they have a class going through of the young police officers in training, it can be 2 weeks every day. Starts at 8 in the morning and it'll run till 9 at night. Not steadily. They stop and sort of, have lunch and do stuff like that.
Reload, I guess.
Reload, yes, yes. And I swear, I mean, I used to work in town. It didn't bother me so much. But now that I'm working at home and I go out on my porch with a glass of wine at 6 o'clock and they see me and they say, "Okay, Barbara, let's start up," and
You
I
say
can't,
that sarcastically, I
of course,
assume.
but I
Okay.
can't sit outside when it's going on at
Wow.
night.
And that really is a shame, because one of the beauties of City Island is, of course, the setting.
Weekends are not a problem. They don't shoot except once a month on Saturdays.
Bob, you're on the Precinct Community Council, and I know you're a supporter of our police and everything that they do. They need this facility, right? I mean, and all of us value the protection, and the federal government criticism aside, we know that we're as well protected as we could be in New York. How important is this facility?
Well, first let me say, a community council is not there for the police, it's
I
there for
understand.
the community.
No, but I understand.
Well, I want people to understand that, because that's a very
Fair enough.
important distinction. You know, they call us the 45th precinct, but they always leave out the community part of community council.
Fair
so
enough.
That's really a key issue. As you say, back in the Dinkins administration, there was an agreement between the Dinkins administration and then the offices of the community council to meet with us monthly and give us an update on what was happening. The next meeting happened in March of this year.
Wow.
So just to give you an idea.
And had you
now,
requested meetings all along?
We sent the second letter out. We sent the letter out recently. I mean, I'm only there a few years, but this has been going on for, as you say, so many years. But we sent the letter out, and we did put in another request, and we did get a response from, I want to get his name right, Philip Heller, who is from the Capital Construction Unit of the NYPD. So this is the fellow who's in charge of overseeing this $275 million project. So we asked for a meeting, and they were very nice in coming together with us, and we met over at Community Board 10 with people from City Island and other members of the community throughout to try and discuss what the plan was. Mm-hmm. They're a year away from even having plans drawn. They don't know how much they're going to spend on the sound baffling, so we really don't know.
So, it would be so nice to be able to say, well, okay, the plan is happening, but it's taking an immense amount of time to do it. You know what I do want to do? We have a map and kind of an overhead picture. So people who are unfamiliar with it, first of all, get out to City Island. The weather's getting nice. Get yourself a nice dinner or a nice lunch, please.
Do it during the week.
During the week, so you don't get, well, because everybody
Traffic
else
is
is going to
bad.
be there. No, but that's just, kind of an aside. But, you'll be able to hear this if you go out there.
can, yeah.
So, Lindsay, can we just pop up those pictures? So here's a look at City Island, which is the island to the right, and then you can see what Barbara was expressing, that just, 2000, I guess you're on the shoreline over
On the
there.
west side of
On the
the
west
island,
side, and you can see where it is. And then the second picture, you can see, Lindsay, if we can put up that, we have that second picture. Let's put that second picture up. And you can see that what Barbara had said, it's an open air facility.
Right.
It is not closed in any way.
It's open range. Yeah.
Bob, just to get back to you, couldn't they do some temporary baffling without sitting here waiting for a $275 million
Well, that's one of the things we've been
project?
asking for, but unfortunately, the price of baffling is very expensive. And that's been one of the issues on the police side of it. Now, people need to understand that this is much more than just a shooting range. They have an entire city street where they do a lot of training. They have cars and buildings in there. So it's much more than just, shooting at targets. People think of a shooting range as a small facility where it's only doing one thing.
Right.
This is a full training facility. As Barbara said, it's not just the New York City Police Department. We have state and federal agents that come in and train there as well. It's part of the anti-terrorism activities that have to take place today. So there's a lot going on there.
I'll get you in here one second. Because it's outdoors, though, you can't just put up a bunch of mattresses or
Correct.
egg cartons
Correct.
and have it have much
Correct.
effect.
It's
Go
going
ahead.
to take a
Right.
lot.
Well, it was built originally for the police department in 1960, and it's pretty bad. The infrastructure there is really awful. There's no real sanitation system. The electricity is really primitive. So there are a lot of issues. They need to rebuild buildings, redo the tactical setup, and they need to work on the ranges. They need to reconstruct the ranges. So the idea is that they will put overhead baffling in, but the idea is that the police are going to end up having to be outdoors anyway when
Because
they're
they're gonna
using
use
guns.
the street
That's right.
and
That's right.
Before we, and I do want to break down some of the elements of the the $275 million renovation, as has been reported, and we want to congratulate the Bronx Times, which really has done a great job, Patrick, over there at chronicling this thing.
And so is the Island Current, too.
The Island Current, which is Barbara's paper that she works so hard on. There was an article in the Times, I think. But the other thing which I found out through the research for this program is that they detonate bombs as well.
That's a
That's correct.
separate option. That's the bomb squad, and that's a separate operation altogether.
But still in the
it's still
same
at-
location.
But
Yes.
it's still on Rodman's
Rodman's
Neck.
Neck.
No,
Right.
and so one of the things that came up was that the Jewish Center was disturbed on Yom Kippur, which I thought,
Well, our Temple Bethel on City Island
That's what I
had
meant,
written an
yeah.
a special request, please, on our high holy days, do not shoot or do not set off bombs. It was the shooting that happened, not bomb squad.
Oh, it was not.
The bomb
Okay.
squad is now tries not to detonate. It used to be awful on the 4th, or just before the 4th of July. They would shoot off all the confiscated fireworks, but now they do testing bombs, and they alert us through the Office of Emergency Management. So that really makes my dogs feel a lot better.
do you think that this, because you talked about how it's gotten progressively worse, do you think after 9/11 and the security imperatives we've had directly contributed
No,
to
I think
this?
it's just the increase in law enforcement. I mean, they do use more powerful guns now here and everywhere else. But as I say, this is a primitive facility, so it was never designed for using really loud guns.
Bob, so they're talking about expanding the type of training that they do. They're going to do more tactical
Yes.
training because that really has just been a shooting range.
Well, the tactical training's been there.
been there.
They have electronic
Yeah,
equipment
Barbara
they do
talked about the
training
street.
with.
You're right.
The full street that they have there with the vehicles. And so they've done that. But again, it's old. It needs a lot of renovations, without a doubt. You know.
Our precincts also have needed renovation, and many of them are getting the renovation. So I guess it's a matter of time till they do this. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mayor Bloomberg said, I mean, we've been fighting. Yeah, I sued the city years ago, and every 5 years they'd come with okay, we're going to do it now. And then Bloomberg said he was going to move it to College Point. And then Bratton at the last
Along
minute.
with a full
That's right.
police training
That's right.
facility.
Yes.
Right.
And
And,
then it was-
Bratton changed his mind. So when he became commissioner again, he
Do
said
we know
no.
why? I mean, at
They
this
said
point,
because of budget.
Money.
They said it was going to cost $1 billion.
that seems like
a lot of money.
a lot, too much money. But
Well, back in October, we met with the people over in Rodman's Neck, and they told us to build their ideal facility where it's located now would still be $1 billion.
Yeah.
So the $275 million is about a quarter of what they really want to do.
Are they going to spend that money? Is the money in the pipeline? I mean, everything
The money's
I've
been
read,
allocated.
It's in
the
the-
money has
it's in
been
the capital
allocated.
budget,
Okay,
yes.
the money has been allocated, so it's on the way to happening.
Yes.
How do you get involved in the dialogue so that if they say, well, you know what, we're going to skimp a little bit on this, and that turns out to be the sound baffling, then that doesn't relieve the
Yeah.
people. How do you get in
Well,
on
this is
that?
where NYPD agreed with the community council to meet with us, and we'll probably meet quarterly, maybe even more often as the project gets moving a little faster. But for the next year, they're still in the design phase.
It's 5 to
So
7 years.
We're
before
talking
we're
5
gonna
to 7 years before
complete
you
it.
see this project completed,
Right.
which
It's too long.
pretty much a city project. I
Wow.
mean, you know, nothing seems to move fast in this city.
Now, John Doyle, who's also on the Civic Association,
correct.
he and I had a little
He's
dialogue.
also on the precinct community
Okay,
council.
All right, fair enough. He and I had a dialogue about wanting to create a community monitoring committee,
Right.
similar to what happened up here in the North Bronx.
That's exactly right.
With the filtration plant.
Right.
Is that on the way? Is that going to be written
That's what
in?
this meeting was all about.
What we were going to do, the Civic was going to raise enough money with also surrounding communities to do sound monitoring, to hire somebody to come and do it. We got a really good outfit that said they would do it. The cost was reasonable, and then they said, oh no, we also do stuff for the city of New York. We can't do it.
The city
Now-
has been in violation, this range has been in violation of city, state, and federal noise regulations Since its
Since the
inception.
beginning.
So what happened
Yeah.
with that lawsuit then when you sued them? You said
Well,
you had sued
what
them?
had happened is Steve Kaufman got several of us,
He
and
was
we
the assemblyman
sued.
at the time?
That's right.
Right.
And to put their feet to the fire on this, and to do the sound abatement and also lead removal. That was another issue.
That's gonna be my next question.
They eventually did do lead removal, and they now have ways of collecting lead and getting rid of it. But the sound thing has never happened. In the middle of the 1990s, Cerami Associates was hired by the police department to come and sound monitor, and they determined that it was illegally loud, and that's when they started again saying, okay, now we're going to do sound abatement, but it never happened.
You know, and I will tell you, even though we say, well, you know, years from now, maybe we'll get some relief finally, the reason that I do a show like this is what I started out at the beginning. Communities in the Bronx have had this issue trying to, frankly, self-determinate, decide what they want, and things keep coming up. Along with that, as well as the process, because I happen to know it very well, that went into creating the monitoring committee for the filtration plant, was it went through the ULURP process, and that was part of the negotiations. Will there be an environmental impact statement? You talked about the lead. That was one thing I thought about, the spent bullets and whatever. That probably is an environmental hazard.
It is.
Will there be an EIS around this project, do you think? And of course, if you do, then that of course slows it up. And
That's
on
what
and
they
on.
said. They said getting permits to do all of this stuff is part of what's going to take a lot of the time. And then getting bids, and then getting, you know, picking the right contractors, and who knows? I mean, it could go on and on. I've tried to get the Department of Environmental Conservation, the state issue, to come and deal with all the pollution and the flood problems and what they're doing there. That, you know, there's no sanitation system, for example. There's a lot of issues there. And DEC said, no, we can't touch it, it's the city.
Aside from the potential proposal, I guess, or the defunct proposal to move it to Queens, has any other site ever been looked at where you think they just kind of like it because it's already there, it's in a park, unfortunately you get disturbed, I'm
Right.
sorry, you know, but
We
is
send
there
them
another
maps
place?
from time to time, but
You
no,
do?
they don't pay
There's
any
no,
attention to us,
you
no.
have,
There's never been any consideration of any other site.
Other than College
and that's
Point.
one of the things
Yeah.
that bothers me. You know, this is alienation of parkland. And that
it's
topic
still
seems to
listed
be
as
ignored.
parkland? It's
Oh,
still
yes.
Still part of
Still
Pelham
is
Bay Park.
parkland.
Wow.
They have an understanding between Parks Department and the city. But Parks Department, I don't think they're legally allowed to give away parkland.
No, then it's certainly
Okay.
not. It
No,
has
there
to-
was a
But yet-
state
it has
to
be a-
statute signed by
Speaking of the
governor.
filtration plant, that was
And,
the
and
same
after
issue.
Same
50
idea.
years, you think they would say, you know, maybe we should talk to the community again. You know, 50 years ago, the community said, well, you know, we're going to have police all over the place. This is good. But nobody ever thought about the noise levels that they're at today.
Right. And again, I want to just input. We certainly want to make sure our police force continues to be well
Absolutely.
Without a
trained.
doubt.
And we all support
We
that
also,
idea.
it's not just City Island anymore either. I mean, Bartow Pell Mansion, Pelham, New York.
They all hear it.
Everybody
Oh, yeah.
hears it.
So
Co-op
I wonder
City.
if we have a moment or two, we'll get to some other City Island issues. But let me ask you this to kind of conclude this section of the dialogue. What would realistically, what would make you happy right now? And then I'm going to ask you the same things. He goes first. So
I don't know
gentlemen
that-
first,
Gentlemen
then
first.
ladies.
Realistically,
Yeah.
I would love to see them conform with city, state, and federal noise regulations.
And figure out how to do that.
That's right. That's the key. I mean, they're putting $275 million in. A lot of that money, I think, is going to go towards the renovations. Obviously, they've got to bring in water and sewer and other things and electricity. There's a lot that's not there. The road conditions are horrible. It's really not a great facility the way it's set up. But ideally, I would love to see them in conformance with the noise regulations, city, state, and federal.
And are you confident that you and Barbara and others, and John Doyle and others, will be able to be part of this dialogue, or are we not quite there yet?
I do believe
I
that they
always
will-
urge for that. That's my
I do
advocacy.
believe that they will continue the dialogue. How much input we'll actually have, I don't know. But I do believe that they'll continue to talk to us.
Barbara, you have, I'm
I
assuming
think-
similar things.
I'm
to
glad
what-
we have Bob, who can be a real nudge and
That's why we
keep
love
That's
him
the
in the
job.
Bronx so much.
to keep after the police department. They are really being as cooperative as they can now. A year ago in the summer, I called the mayor on the phone through public radio, and he said he had never heard of this issue. And then the next thing we knew, he came out to a town meeting and he said, I'm putting money in the budget. So he has gotten a lot of help, I think, from the police department. I think they want to improve this as much as anybody. But I'd like it to happen sooner.
So we're still a little bit away.
We're still a little bit away.
All right, let's talk about
Just before you go on, I would also like to see the state and federal government who are using the facility
They can kick
add
in
to that
money.
$275 million to make sure that they're in conformance with noise regulations.
That actually makes a lot of sense. If they're using the facility, why should
Right,
the
and the
burden
cities-
be on city taxpayers?
Letters have gone unanswered, however. in that regard.
Let's talk about a couple of other high-profile things. Certainly the Seafood City incident, more than an incident. There was a horrible...
It was a brawl.
A brawl, a riot, whatever you want to call it. Are you satisfied now as on the Precinct Community Council that things have been dealt with properly?
Well, at Seafood City, first of all, there were no arrests. There were no complaints.
That is unbelievable.
Isn't it
really.
amazing? You know, videos are a funny thing. You can see a 30-second, 60-second video
Well, people
and
got
get a whole
clocked in
different
the-
image.
in the face there.
Absolutely.
They were
And
videoing
nobody,
themselves, though.
Nobody went to the hospital. There were no major injuries. There were no complaints
I'm going to say
filed.
something terrible. Just another night, Saturday night in the Bronx, I guess.
You know, it was a really strange set of circumstances. However, the people at Seafood City did come and meet with the acting district manager at Community Board 10. They met with the captain of the 45th Precinct, the new captain,
There was
Captain
a lot
Gons.
of a lot of
And
media
they've made
coverage on
changes.
it.
And they've made changes, you know.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied? Maybe I should ask the
They
City
really,
Island
they
resident.
really said they want to be family oriented. And I think that they're going to do the right thing.
We're trying.
You
We're
feel
trying.
okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think that they've made some changes. They've reduced the amount of alcohol, although that's not a good ad for the place, I suppose. But it's a good thing. They would like to have more police coverage, more prompt responses to 911 calls.
Nudge the guy next to
Well,
you.
but we would like them to get off-duty officers to pay detail there.
Right.
But according to the city, you cannot if there's liquor being served. We would like them to adjust that rule so that we can have people there. If there's an off-duty police officer at Seafood City and trouble happens and they call 911, the cars show up immediately.
Then the next, I guess, related issue, and they're really not too far from each other, is Don Coquille and the liquor license. Where is that at? News 12 had a story, but I think the story that I saw
Don
was...
Coquille will not, State Liquor Authority will not be issuing, it was just at the last full board, community board meeting, an announcement was made that State Liquor Authority will not issue Don Coquille a liquor license because they have issues with their building C of O. And they cannot...
So it's not related necessarily to, because there were many complaints from the community.
Not related
Noise.
to
Noise
complaints,
is
but
awful.
related to the building itself. There are also questions on the special zoning for City Island and parking requirements that are greater than what
So
they
are
have.
they, is that, I don't wish anybody bad, are they going to go out of business, or do you think they'll have some time, you believe they'll have some time and fix it up?
I think so. One of the things is most of the restaurants on City Island close at midnight, the latest 1 o'clock, and they stay open till 4 on weekends. And there's outdoor stuff, and there's dancing, and there shouldn't be. They don't have a cabaret license.
Right.
So they've been breaking rules all over the place and getting around all of this because they're so popular. They also cause terrible traffic coming onto the island because of their valet parking.
So it sounds
So-
like while the dialogue with Seafood City has gone okay, there seems to be more
It's
dialogue. that needs-
unresolved. It's unresolved. It's a
All right.
very good restaurant. I mean, it's
I'm not-
upmarket
yeah.
compared to Seafood City in
Sure.
a way, so it's a different clientele. But
Well,
they
it's just as an observer, I don't live on City Island, but I love to go there. I love to eat there. You can't have those businesses not be part of the community. It is an insular community that way, and if you're gonna, the way I see it is, if you're gonna have a business, you got to kind of play ball in that way. I want to ask about something else, Barbara, that you told me about. I heard about it, but you expanded on it before the show, was this idea of tow trucks. And that has become a problem. There's not a lot of aisles to maneuver over there in City Island.
well, we have
So
3 lanes. There's emergency fire lane, and
my
then there's
point, yes.
up and down. There's one way on, one way off. Yes, for some reason, and I believe it's somebody who owns some property who leased it to tow truck places and to junk cars and repo cars and things like that. plus a young man who on the island who had his own tow truck business, and there's an auto body shop. Suddenly there were just hundreds of tow trucks going up and down City Island Avenue, going very fast, parking on the street in the middle of the night, and in the middle of the street.
Now these
often
are I assume private towers?
Private businesses, yeah.
And hired by? Hired by who? I mean, or they just were using the...
Well, these are companies that do tow truck business. I mean, that's their business.
Right.
They race off the island to get to the accident or wherever, which is a problem. Now, one of the issues on City Island is we have special City Island district zoning, and we're not allowed to have certain kinds of businesses that are not reflective of City Island's history,
And
nautical
I'm assuming
history.
tow truck would be
And they're
on
not
that list.
really in there, except tow trucks get away with a lot. They're not commercial vehicles. They can park on a street. They're emergency vehicles, and I understand that. I mean, a lot of us, have had to need them in the past, but there's no reason to have junk cars, parked in big lots. And
Last
things like
City
that.
Island question, then we're going to have let Bob talk about his business as well. Economic development, how are we doing? There are some stores that have closed on
Well,
City
we just
Island.
had our pharmacy just closed, gave us 1 day's notice,
Right.
and out it goes, and we have no pharmacy now.
That's difficult.
We have lots of pharmacies around City Island who are all willing to deliver to
pop
absolutely
right in,
everybody,
yeah.
which is very nice. No, and we have some empty storefronts. We'd like to. It's a problem because we're a big time tourist place in the summer, but in the winter, a lot of people used to live on City Island, work, shop, do
So
whatever.
what's the
but
outlook?
now they don't.
What's the outlook? You're not
We're
sure?
trying to attract business now. We've got a pharmacist interested.
Good.
We're trying
I'm gonna-
parking
I'm gonna-
is the other issue.
I'm going to
Yep.
advertise for you, and that is, if you're going to do it, do it. It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
It's a great place to do business, but do it with the community in coordination.
right.
And if you do that, they're going to love you forever, and they'll shop there.
That's right.
Free plug for Westchester Square Plumbing and Heating. Go ahead. How you doing? with-
Westchester Square Plumbing Supply is celebrating our 93rd year.
Wow.
My daughter is 4th generation.
This is a great story, and that's why I'm letting them tell
It just feels terrific. Pipes,
That's it.
valves, fittings,
The whole
boilers, water heaters.
And if you want to
so-
go and chat and talk about
if you just
Rodman's
wanna come
Neck
in,
and the precinct, go,
we're
Bob is there.
also supporters of the arts.
Yep.
All right, you were
Our
telling me
building,
that.
our building has
Yeah, it's good.
several murals on
Great.
both sides. We're on a corner building, on
All
the corner
right.
of Glebe and Westchester.
There you go.
So we
Thank
actually
you.
have become part of a tour that comes out of Manhattan to see the artwork.
I
which is
love
really
all the
exciting.
shows I do and all the people who come on, but there's nothing I like better than talking about Bronx communities. Bob Beater and Barbara Dolensek, thank you so much. And keep fighting for the borough of the Bronx. I really appreciate it.
Thank
We all
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
And if you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at BronxTalk@BronxNet.org. Send us a tweet at BronxTalk or post them on our Facebook page, and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. And you can check out our archives at BronxNet.org. Bronx Talk is on the lower right navigation bar. So we'll see you next week. And next week we'll talk about homelessness and poverty in advance of a couple of informative Bronx forums on those subjects. And then on May 8th, a special show about artwork done by some very talented Bronx children. Soup to nuts, we cover it all here on Bronx Talk. So thanks to our producer, Lindsay. Our director is Brianna. The cast of thousands around here, and to you and to them. And we'll see you next week. Good night.
Morning, Gary. We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you? Gary, financial aid forms. Biology homework, G. Picking a college, man. You and us go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos.